Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Lots of reaction to the new title in Black Ops 6. The second weekend of the beta is now underway with some changes being made and Shotzzy giving his perspective certainly on the Omni movement, but also concerns about the map sets currently in the game with Babylon arriving now for this weekend. But also Dashy and Simp having a bit of back and forth. Of course, they faced off with each other at the World Championship back in Dallas and only one of those teams could come out on top. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Not gonna lie, I mean, Octane's aim here is so good, it genuinely looks like he's cheating, does it not? I mean, here he is on this Babylon map, and the spawns are not the best. I mean, he lays down here and immediately starts spawning in front of him, but look at the snaps. I mean, this second kill here, this one to this one to this one, I mean, like, I have seen aimbots that are less accurate than that, so... You know, the human turret, he still got it right. If he wanted to come back and play, he could. And we did talk about that, to be fair, if Scrap and HyDra were to team up and say, yo, Sam, like, yo, Formal, do you want to come back and play? Maybe one of them would say yes to be in that team as main AR, but as it stands, doesn't seem especially likely. These are just some more examples of the spawns here really on Babylon. Look, it's a small map. You're going to get dodgy spawns. It is what it is. But, you know, it's not ideal, is it? Let's be honest. It's not going to be a 4v4 map you would well imagine, and not going to be played in competitive is I guess what I meant on that one, and it is another just tiny TikTok brain map in my opinion, which is a bit concerning, and we'll see the OpTic boys talk about that a little bit in a second. Quickly on the Jackal PDW, the weapon that was nerfed for the second weekend. It's been nerfed, well, reasonably substantially in terms of the number of things that have been nerfed, but actually in terms of its overall performance, it's not that dissimilar, right? It can still be used. So the Jackal's maximum damage has gone down, the maximum damage range has gone down, the other damage ranges have gone down and been reduced on some level, small increase to view kick strength, and a couple of changes elsewhere too. And Exclusive Ace, though, did the analysis on this and says... yes, it is significantly weaker than it was before. Instead of killing at 6 shots all the way across the map, it now has to kill in 7, and that now applies them even earlier. So the time to kill goes, let's say, from that 20 to 30 meter range when it was still very strong. That is now reduced, so that's only going to be like a 6-shot kill now from 20 meters onwards, whereas it was before a 5-shot kill in that time frame. But at close range, between 0 and 15 meters, pretty much 0 and 20 meters, it actually performs almost identically to what it did before. So it is a relatively sizable nerf, there's no doubt about that, but if you use it where it's maybe supposed to be used, then it's still a very strong weapon, basically as good as it was on the first weekend of the beta. So you just have to be more kind of, well, cautious with the way that you use the SMGs in this game, which I think is absolutely the right thing. I mean, I miss the days of back in, let's say, Black Ops 2, I'm not going to mention it, maybe I will, but not quite yet. Black Ops 2, if you tried to use the MSMC and map someone with it, you were getting gunned by the AR every single time because you lost aim assist with the SMGs after a certain range. The guns also kicked as well. They didn't have especially strong aim assist, certainly at range, the SMGs. So you just couldn't take a gunfight cross-map. And even Treyarch, I wouldn't say they've been, well, I mean, they have been guilty of this if you want to call it a really bad thing. Black Ops Cold War was like terrible, really, for... If you were on raid, you could just chal anything with the AK-74U. It didn't matter, like, this guy's on a heli cross map, I can chal him with the 74U, he's got a Krig, no problem at all, I'll take that fight. And that's been the way that it's been in COD for some time now, where the SMGs have no problems just challing an AR. In my opinion, the ARs need to be incredibly good at what they're good at, but their handling needs to be weaker and slower, so up close, the SMGs will dominate. That's how it used to be, that's how it probably should be, but in the last few games, it's like any gun is capable of basically anything, which I don't think makes the game play as well as possible. I feel like this game, Black Ops 6, isn't quite to that level back as it was in the day, but it's certainly better than it used to be over the last few years. So Scump dropped 113 eliminations on this new Babylon map. Octane dropped a fair few as well. Not exactly sure what the record is so far on Babylon, but I did see a few screenshots floating around, such as this one from aBeZy. He actually dropped 138 elims here, playing with JoeDeceives, one of his good boys. I've said it before, I'll probably end up saying it again. The fact that maybe aBeZy and JoeDeceives could end up as teammates at some point in their career. I don't think that that's completely impossible. of course, it seems so out of the realms of possibility that Simp and aBeZy would ever split up. But, you know, let's say in some hypothetical universe, they're looking to bring another player into their roster. Let's say Drazah ends up going, Cell is the main, Simp can flex. I mean, they tried to do it with Shotzzy, right? They wanted Shotzzy a couple of seasons ago to team with Cell as the main, Simp as the flex, aBeZy and Shotzzy on the SMGs. You know, theoretically, they could do that with another SMG player like Joe if the time calls. aBeZy and himself certainly get along well. This, though, is the highest number that I saw so far here on this Babylon map, and that is from Super with 146 eliminations. So pretty good going, to be fair. Look, it's pros pub stomping at a beta, so it is what it is. It's not exactly massively unexpected, but I did want to talk about what some of the OpTic guys had to say on this. This, I think, might have been from last weekend of the beta, really, because, you know, here's the Jackal still getting some serious use, but whatever it is, this is some movement here from HyDra, which is, like, you see some players behave like Shotzzy, for example, but there's very few players that can do anything like what HyDra's doing here. I guess there is some questions, as Shotzzy will mention, on the sprint assist as it currently is, because if there's no sprint assist on, actually using the movement, especially laterally, does become more of a challenge, right? Because, you know, you can strafe left and right while effectively sprinting, technically, with this Omni movement. You're not as fast, obviously, left or right or backwards as you are forwards, but nonetheless, you can still do it. And the sprint assist, which is not quite auto tac sprint, but it's not too far away, it allows you to sprint pretty much as standard. That does allow you to use the Omni movement more. So I do wonder whether the pros will GA that again, as they have done over the last couple of years, or whether they'll decide, actually, no, this is the thing to do to make the gameplay better. But at the same time, some of the pros will then, you know, maybe be too good with that or whatever, but they always talk about the skill gap, and players that are not as good with the movement, if there's no auto, let's say, like sprint assist, they will get exposed hard this year. So Shotzzy was talking about that, kind of wondering, all right, if I turn off the sprint assist, how easy is it still going to be to abuse the Omni movement in the way that himself and other players have been doing? But also they were talking about some of the maps here, right? These four at the bottom, I think, are strike maps. So they're like smaller versions that are never really going to be used for competitive. To be fair, in Cold War, Crossroads Strike was used initially as a competitive map, and I actually thought that was a pretty damn good map, to be fair. I quite liked it. It was played for Hardpoint at the start of the year, but yeah, these maps maybe not. Of course, we're seeing Babylon is not even considered to be, maybe it is a strike map. It's so small that maybe it should be, but like, it's not going to be viable for competitive. We've seen the other maps. I guess part of my concern is the fact that in the majority of betas in COD history, we have seen a pretty decent percentage of maps from the beta turn up in the real game. Obviously, the Black Ops 3 beta, right? You know, Stronghold was in the game towards the end of it. Evac was in the beta as well. I think Hunted was in the beta too and stuff like that. And then, you know, over the other games, I think Infinite Warfare, maybe like Frost was in there. And like, generally, there's been at least one map. I think even World War II, there was Gibraltar, right, that was in the beta. And I think we've seen it as well in recent titles too, that usually at least one of the beta maps, one or two, maybe even three, turn up in the actual game for competitive. So, you know, maybe Skyline is going to be that map for this beta, but it is still a bit concerning because, you know, let's be real, Scud is not going to be in there for competitive play this year, is it? So that is, you know, maybe it's still a bit concerning, and even the other maps we've got haven't been great. I do have some faith that, you know, remasters will arrive, and, you know, I wish it wasn't necessary to have all these remasters back, but it may well be. And I think, well, as Zinni goes on to say here in a second, Treyarch are going to try their best to make this work.
The good thing about Treyarch, though, is, like, I think they'll do anything to make it work for competitive. Like, you can just tell, like, I've been talking to the devs, and I'm not even competing anymore. Like, they actually care what the competitive community thinks.
Well, last year, I feel like we got to give props to Sledgehammer a little bit, because
Sledge has always been good,
they
too.
did... I mean, dude, imagine if those DLC maps weren't a thing last year and we were playing fucking Skid Row Hardpoint at Champs or Terminal Hardpoint at Champs.
Ultra would have loved that.
Would you have been losing your fucking
Wait,
mind?
Subbase is DLC?
No, Subbase wasn't, but like 6-star, I mean,
Rio,
yeah. Like all those maps were all DLC.
Nah, low-key looking back at that shit, like that, those maps actually saved us.
No, dead ass. Like,
bro, we had no sub-maps. We had Terminal, Subbase, and then there's one other one. Invasion, we were playing with 4 ARs.
Terminal was
just crazy.
Dead ass, like,
Terminal was fun as an AR, that's it.
Yeah, I actually did.
Yeah,
I mean, just holding crosses.
We got to give props to Sledgehammer last year, because again, they implemented good, like, new, good, fresh DLC maps. The camos, they kept coming out with camos the whole year. Operators, like, they did a good job with the the mid-year like roadmap. Like they did a very good job.
I've always listened. When it comes to competitive, it's Treyarch, Sledge, and then there's a bit of a drop off before Infinity Ward. Sledgehammers make good games. AW obviously like changed the game in a sense. World War II, once again, I Will Die on the Hill. That competitively, that was a great game. It was just very dull looking. It was just, if that game had some color, I think it'd be received differently. We were also playing CTF too, which like you either love or hate CTF as a viewer.
Yeah.
As a competitor, I've always loved it, but like I understand that it could be boring to watch. But
What'd
Treyarch,
you think of Omni Movement?
That's just godlike.
You love it?
That's just literally so godlike.
You love it?
Yeah, the only thing, I kind of messed up because I didn't turn off the sprint assist. So I don't know like how easy it is with Omni movement because I was legit like sliding backwards, sideways, like all that stuff. So I don't know how it is like without it.
I think we use sprint assist, right?
So certainly Shotzzy and the other boys having a good time playing the game. As we said, it's not just the Jackal that's viable, right? We've seen Simp, for example, since the Jackal nerf, start to use what is effectively the MP5 weapon in the game, and that's pretty viable as well. Get a few attachments on it. This gun fries as well, and you know, we haven't seen too many Simp POVs really over the last couple of days, so I thought it was worth pointing out as well. Just good plays as you might expect. But yeah, what do you think about the beta so far and the meta? Some people are saying that the beta feels worse this weekend than it did before based on the changes they've made to the movement and stuff like that. I'm not really so sure as of yet. Dashy and Sib, though, they were having a bit of a back and forth. We've seen Sib get into some drama really over the last few days, pretty much because this guy was involved in the Cloud9 situation at the end of last season, and, you know, maybe as some of you guys are pointing out in the comments of yesterday's evening's video, that his criticism on the Subliners and their methods and their culture, you know, might be valid in some parts. Of course, there's questions on that, given that, you know, they won the World Championship the year before, and even with a roster this season with Sid that you could argue was quite dysfunctional behind the scenes, they were still able to achieve a rather decent amount of results. But, you know, maybe what Sib said was fair, but it's just maybe the way that he said it that, you know, rubbed people the wrong way, which wouldn't be the first time that's happened, to be fair. So, anyway, Dashy's looking back here, the COD League tweet out, throwback to the craziest event of the year, of course. This is the World Championship there in Dallas, you know, the biggest crowd that I think we've probably ever really seen for a competitive Call of Duty event, certainly over the last several years, maybe like the 2017 or 2016 World Championships, which, you know, were in like CleanX, for example. There were so many people there, but it wasn't just for the Call of Duty World Championship. And of course, you know, some pictures from that fateful day back in July, and as Dashy says, you know, obviously ring winner, but Sim in the replies is like, damn, bro's gonna be posting about this till Black Ops 6, we get it, bro, you beat me at a grand final. Dashy was like, oh damn, didn't know my guy was on the timeline, otherwise I wouldn't have tweeted this out. But pretty funny stuff. We know that Sib's talked about it as well, that look, he's looking at the likes of Pred, his former teammate, and seeing that Pred now has a World Championship ring and Sib doesn't, and you know, trying to correct that going forward. But he's not going to be correcting it on Cloud9, although still Dante technically has Cloud9 in his Twitter thing, because he is still a player for them, but he's just a restricted free agent, and is more than likely, well, he's not going to be staying on that team clearly after what we've seen over the last couple of days. Just before we close out the video, I thought I'd go through some interesting stats here actually that TGU Swag put on the Reddit. Thought this was quite fascinating really. This is CDL era Grand Finals KD across multiple players. We'll get back to the top in a second. We'll start from the bottom, I guess, here really, because, you know, some of these guys have only played a couple of Grand Finals. Luca, who only played one on, I think it was Paris, wasn't it? The Australian player that was on that team with like Dens and the boys back in the Modern Warfare 19 season. They made one Grand Finals. Luca had a 0.6. Pretty funny from Classic, I'm not gonna lie, that one Grand Finals that he won when he was on that Toronto team at the end of the Modern Warfare 19 season. They won their own home series. He had like a 0.67 and they still won that series. You know, some other notable players, Priestahh is here at like a 0.87, but he has made 10 Grand Finals. Envoy's made 10 Grand Finals as well, averaging a 0.94, and then we can get further up here into kind of the mid-pack. Even Scrap, it's quite maybe surprising that in 4 Grand Finals that Scrap's made, he's only got a 0.96, but you know, to be fair, a lot of those he's been let down kind of big time, I think, by his teammates anyway. I mean, the World Championship Grand Final last year when he had a bad series, but his teammate got 0-5 wiped anyway. aBeZy, 9 in 14 in Grand Finals, got around about a 1.0, and as we get to the top players though, that's when you see, you know, Pharaoh, rest in peace. I mean, what a player. Now, I know that was Modern Warfare 19 season, and it was a bit of a weird season in some respects. It was on Florida that year, year, but 1.38. Zinni as well, but only of course one sample size there. Like the players that have more of a sample size, like 3 or more grand finals, like it's Pharaoh and then it's Slasher. It's a fair play with a 1.17, Formal, Big Wake. You're seeing a lot of AR players as you might expect, but then you get HyDra in the mix as well. And GodRx actually here from his time back on the Rocker in MW19, losing both finals he played, but actually having a 1.1. Not the case this season on Ravens, but very much enjoying your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.